morning and welcome to 9 to noon from Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center, specifically TCO Studios, the glamorous TCO Studios, housed as part of the Vikings Entertainment Network. And I'm Paul Allen. Maxwell Fuller guides the great ship Love Covenant from FM 100.3 KFAN and the 651 Carpets Plus Studios. Nordo nailing a couple in initials. He will be the on-site producer once he arrives at TCO Studios, and courtesy of TimberTech and TimberTech.com. What's on deck 9 to noon today includes the analyst for the Vikings Radio Network, Pete Bursich, at 10 o'clock. Alec Lewis, who covers the Minnesota Vikings for The Athletic and TheAthletic.com, at about 11 o'clock. Then a couple of former National Football League players, Chris Long, two-time Super Bowl winner, and Bo Allen, Minnetonka High School go crazy. Bo Allen also won a Super Bowl with the Philadelphia Eagles, Super Bowl 5-2 at the U.S. Bank Stadium. They're going to be here at the TCO Studios joining 9 to noon about 11:40 because they're doing their podcast, the Green Light Project, I believe is what it's called. The Green Light something. I have it written down on the other side of the room, but nevertheless, they'll be here at about 11:40, and joining us out of the gate is main man G, Gabe Henderson with the Vikings Entertainment Network, and Vikings.com off the second preseason game against the Browns into the final preseason game against the Eagles. 20 days from playing the New York Giants at MetLife Stadium to begin the 2024 regular season. And also, a day after the news popped, the Minnesota Vikings have signed cornerback Stephon Gilmore, and we're going to get into that momentarily, and that'll be a common thread during the course of the radio show today. But as we welcome at Gabe A. Henderson via the tweet machine into the TCO studio, we begin with recognizing that was a long time in Cleveland. It was an enjoyable time in Cleveland. You operating the boom mic and teaching me about twists and stunts and A-gap mugging and everything. But you know that you've been at a hotel for quite some time when, like, you exit a hotel elevator and no longer have to look at the room numbers on the wall, indicating which way to head down the hallway. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it was Friday morning. I was like, I think I know this hotel better than I know my house.
Right.
In the Twin Cities. But it was a great time. Mm-hmm. Some solid week of work for the Vikings. Just a great opportunity to get away, represent the home team, and ultimately come out with the win in a almost rained out preseason game against the Cleveland Browns. So,
it got a little nasty late.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Like at that hotel, and the accommodations were terrific. And as we said with Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah during the simulcast, and also I think Bursich and I brought it up, maybe you and I, the operations staff here. I mean, there's just so much that goes into the operation of joint practices and 4.5 days in one city. But nevertheless, it's great to be home. It was great to be back on Sunday. You chilling with your wife and with Ellen and doing family things. Yours truly calling races at Canterbury Park. My church, Faith Family Church, had a baptism night last night at a lake in Lakeville. That was absolutely spectacular. But it came after, like, when you're at a location, a hotel, quite some time when, like, you head out the front door and then they hold the door for you, the people working at the Hilton, and you're like, hey, Steve, good to see you again. How are the wife and kids? Did they have a good time at the Cleveland Metro Park Zoo? And was the Cat and Aquatic Center open? I know you were stressing over that a little bit. You're there a little long when that's the case. And our Cats beat Stefanski's Cats by 15 Saturday in the second preseason game. The victory was as easy as A, B, C. And here are the A, B, and C topics off that game, the penultimate preseason game. And there, with Gilmore signed and assumedly practicing today and moving toward the the regular season, there are plenty of things into which we will dive today. But for the purpose of what we just saw, the A topic is some of the players who did not play. All right. Now, like Ty Chandler. I mean, seriously, is covenant claps for Ty Chandler, okay? I mean, tears up the preseason a couple of years ago, gets some opportunities last year. He's won the favor of Kevin O'Connell. Very fast, had some good moments, had some rough moments when it comes to pass protection and blitz pickup, and he's not the first young running back or player to experience that, and he's improved a lot off that. But it's for Ty Chandler, the running back.
Yeah.
It's a dead cinch. He plays in that game last year, and it's a testament to his progress and improvement and scholastic approach to his craft that he earned his way to a healthy inactive in a preseason game.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are talking about Aaron Jones and that acquisition this past offseason, but Ty Chandler is going to be a huge part of this Minnesota Vikings offense. I remember vividly 2 years ago, that preseason game in Denver where he had his coming out party. And it's like, hey, who is this guy from UNC that's breaking off these 30-yard runs and is looking like he's got some juice? And fast forward to last year, the opportunities increased more. And then this offseason, he came back weighing a few pounds more. You can tell he took a lot of account into his body. And then add on top of that, he still looked fast.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see what that looks like this upcoming season. And for him not to play in preseason game number 2, that means this coaching staff believes that he is going to be a running back for the future here for this Minnesota Vikings team. So that was really good to see him not dressed up on Saturday.
ABC, yeah, we. All right, Max, here we go. The B topic was the performance of this guy.
Thompson Robinson throws it over the middle, and it bounds up into the air, and it's intercepted by Lewis Seen. Lewis Seen picked it off at the 17-yard line.
If Lewis Seen was out of the 53 into the game, hopefully the young man opened some eyes with his performance. Now, that safety room, that's a tough nut to crack. Hitman, Bynum, Metellus, Theo Jackson, in my estimation, they're all in. They'll keep Jay Ward, but do they keep him as a safety? Is he listed as a cornerback? Seen played very fast, knocked that Browns receiver or quarter, whomever,
yep.
The quarterback, right?
Yep.
Right into Lake Erie with that second half blast. And, we might need to, yours truly might be doing some numbers crunching a little later in the radio show just to throw some stuff against the wall and kind of see how close we're getting to that 53. But hey, whether Lewis Seen is here, there, or anywhere, I felt so good for that young man having that moment in that game, a bunch of moments, the interception, the hits, and things like that.
For sure. For Lewis to finish a game with 11 tackles, a sack, an interception, and a tackle for a loss,
dude.
That's exactly what you want. I mean, I know a lot of these coaches say, hey, look, my job is for you guys that's in my room to make my decision as hard as possible. Right. Come cut day after the third preseason game. And Lewis Seen, he did that with his performance this past Saturday against the Cleveland Browns. I'm excited to see what preseason game number 3 looks like because, to your point, there are three safeties that did not play in that Saturday game. Harrison Smith, Cam Bynum, and I believe Josh Metellus.
Right.
So Theo Jackson played, Lewis Seen played. So I believe both of those guys are going to have to battle it out for that last position if that's the way this coaching staff views that competition battle at that safety unit. It was exciting to see him play. He broke his leg a couple of years ago. He didn't know how he was going to recover. And for him to be playing full speed and make those plays on Saturday, thumbs up to Lewis Seen.
From Saturday at Cleveland, topics A, B, and C. Yeah, the C topic for now is they knew the Browns coming into the game. Kevin O'Connell knew the Browns were going to play a bunch of man-to-man defense. And whether that's what they do full-time or that's just what they were looking to, that's kind of the beauty of these preseason games. When we had Kwesi Adofo-Mensah in the Vikes box for the second quarter, there was a play where Walter Rouse went out on just an aggressive pull. I mean, big man's just rolling out left flat. And the play didn't necessarily get out to him, but like Kwesi said, these are times where you can work on things with players where, like Walter Rouse, we know he's hard to move. We know he can move you. We know he's smart with A, B, and C just in this compacted area. But they got the big man out on the run. And, so maybe the Browns with their, with their secondary players were playing an inordinate amount of man, but O'Connell kind of knew it was coming. And his mandate was, if you are singled, beat it. And, this is exactly what, Tristan Jackson did with it.
Fades to the end zone, caught, touchdown. Tristan Jackson with touchdowns in successive weeks. That one goes for 14, and the Vikings get the ball first, and they grab the lead 6-0.
Tristan Jackson, Jayshon Jones with a 71, and or however long it was, and a bunch of others beat their guys and opened eyes. And all right, second preseason game, a majority of the ones are not playing.
Yep.
But you know what? You deal with what's in front of you, and you deal with what you have opted to use, and the menu or lack thereof you're going to offer offensively and defensively. So if that's the case, take the ball, go down the field, beat the man, and score. And that's what they did.
And Tristan Jackson in particular, when you talk about scoring, he scored in preseason game number 1 and now in preseason game number 2. And the fact that he's been so consistent in practice, and you see that in a game against actual talent, the speed is a little bit faster, that pretty much shows this coaching staff that, hey, this guy can make plays when his number's called. Granted, we still got Justin Jefferson. We still have Jordan Addison and so on and so forth. But Tristan Jackson, when you're talking about, that fourth or that fifth or maybe that third receiver that could possibly win that job, Tristan Jackson is making a valuable case for, hey, I should be this guy. So he's doing what he's supposed to do. His number's being called. I don't know if there were 5 plays on the play sheet on Saturday that Wes Phillips was calling from, or 35.
Right.
But the plays that Tristan Jackson, the plays that came to him, he made them, and that's all you ask from him.
So the Vikings go 2-0 in the preseason for what that's worth into this Eagles game, and we are less than 3 weeks from playing the New York Giants in the regular season opener, and that's going to be a lot of fun. But meanwhile, you get back, and then you learn yesterday, despite reports over the course of X amount of days, and that Stephon Gilmore, cornerback, he's going to be 34 years of age 1 month from today. Stephon Gilmore, 2-time All-Pro, Super Bowl winner with the New England Patriots, somebody with whom Brian Flores is familiar. He made a visit to Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center, and generally speaking, when players visit facilities and leave and there's not a deal, the probability that they return with a deal is definitely below 50%. That was not the case with Gilmore, who by reports received a 1-year, $10 million deal from the Minnesota Vikings. At this stage of Stephon's career, again, he's a 2-time All-Pro, and in 2019 he was the NFL Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, that's 5 years ago. Yep. So he's like 29 years of age, and he led the NFL in interceptions in 2019. But at this stage of his career, if you just look at the past performances, it's apparent that he's a mercenary corner. He's a hired gun type corner, where this will be his 5th team in the last 5 years. What were your initial thoughts when you heard the Gilmore signing had become official?
Well, he adds quality depth to this DB room, especially the cornerback position. And secondly, I believe Mike Pettin was the defensive coordinator in Buffalo in Stephon Gilmore's 2nd year in the league.
Oh, geez.
So there's a I believe that the articles on Vikings.com, Craig Peters wrote about it this morning. There was some overlap in between both of those guys' careers, and maybe that played a factor into him being here right now. But you look at the past 5 years for Stephon Gilmore. Last year, had a career high in tackles, 2 interceptions, a couple of pass breakups. The year before in Indianapolis, had a solid year. I believe at this point, when you have some of the adversity that we faced so far this offseason for this Minnesota Vikings cornerback room, adding some quality depth only makes that room better. I'm not saying he's going to be out here playing like the 2019 Defensive Player of the Year, but his eyes are going to put him in the right place at the right times, and hopefully our pass rush can help him out and marry the pass rush and the pass coverage, and hopefully that equates to a solid year for him in year number 13 in Minnesota.
Now we 9 to noon will get more into some of the minutia with Stephon Gilmore, a cornerback who the Minnesota Vikings officially have signed. It was made official within the last 15-20 minutes, I believe. Yep. And the cornerback covenant has been that of calamity, in that you have the death of Kyrie Jackson, and there's no guarantee Kyrie, with all due respect, was going to make the team, but he probably would have made the team, and who knows if he would have played. But nevertheless, he was part of that room. Mekhi Blackmon tears his ACL. All right, so he's done. And Shaq Griffin, who they got on, I think it's a 1 year, $4.5 million deal. It could be worth to like up to 6 or 7. Shaq Griffin is a sticky press man type corner, but he hasn't been available for the last X amount of days or weeks due to injury. So, I haven't caught wind of anything about Shaq Griffin, like he's not going to play or anything. So I'm not going to make a prediction that he'll be starting outside in the Giants game, but I'm also not going to say that he won't be starting outside in that game. Plenty of time to get him ready. Now you have Gilmore. He's an outside corner, who in his better days, has been known to be a sticky man-to-man type corner. Yep. Byron Murphy Jr., inside guy. He also is that. I think the A topic here is like last year. They came into the 2023 season. All right. Now Flores plays 3 safeties a lot, and positions don't necessarily have notations or, as you look at a depth chart. So you'll see Jay Ward, S, safety. All right. Well, he played some safety in the Browns game, but he's also played more corner the entire training camp and most of the preseason than he has safety. So the way Brian Flores, defensive coordinator for the Vikings, does it, position flexibility is an absolute must. Yeah. With Metellus playing all linebacker positions, corner position, safety, and the whole thing. So with that said, last year, in the first game of the season against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I believe the starting 2 corners were Byron Murphy Jr. and Caleb Evans. Yep. Now you look at the amount of games. Okay, so then let's put Mekhi Blackmon, who didn't play much defense in that game, but eventually would play some and would play, 50, 60 plays a game. So if you just take the games played during the careers of those individuals, and now we fast forward to 2024. On that sheet with the hieroglyphic like handwriting, I have it written down, but I'm gonna save. No, that's cool. I'm gonna save it for the 947. Thank you, though. You take Gilmore, Griffin, Murphy Jr., and then Fabian Moreau. I mean, you got 400 some odd games of experience. Yep. So, I mean, it's, you can put it however you want, experience in the room, adults in the room, people who have won Super Bowls and have been all pro and have been defensive player of the year and stuff like that and have played in a lot of playoff games. And Fabian Moreau, even before he played, has been lauded for his man-to-man coverage and just how tough he can be at the line of scrimmage. Holy cow. They all of a sudden have a ton of experience in that room.
And that's all you ask, especially when you pair some of those guys with Harrison Smith, who's seen every phase, every in and out of this league. Ultimately, that just makes that pass coverage unit that much more better. I'm excited to see what it can look like. I'm just thinking about Patrick Peterson when he came here a couple of years ago for the first time, and he was like, hey, when I met Harrison Smith and we started talking about the game of football for the first time, like it was like a match made in heaven. There were certain things that we just knew from a mental and from a nonverbal standpoint that always put us in the right place at the right time. Now you bring in Stephon Gilmore, a guy who has veteran experience, 2-time All-Pro Defensive Player of the Year. That mental, that nonverbal communication that him and Harrison Smith will have, or him and Cam Bynum will have, I believe that makes this entire unit better. And you start to work down the cornerback room and say, all right, well, look, you got some young guys in the room that can learn from some of these older guys. Now you got Shaq Griffin coming off of injury. Now he has that opportunity to play. And one thing that people don't know about, what's his name? Fabian Moreau is his speed. Yep. Like he is fast. So there's a lot of flexibility in that room. And I'm sure Brian Flores has, I'm sure he's very proud of how he strategically put guys in certain places to ultimately get to this point where we are right now.
Now, before the Browns game, doing the simulcast with Bursich and Lieber, Pete and I had the privilege of sitting down with offensive coordinator Wes Phillips, who called the entire game Saturday, defensive coordinator Brian Flores, who shared with us DB's coach Durante Jones would call the first half, and Mike Saravo, the inside linebackers coach, would call the second half. And then we met with Theo Jackson and Jalen Naylor. And I know Jackson and Naylor, but like I've never sat down with Jalen and talked to him about the things that we discussed and had a chance to share via the simulcast on Saturday. But like he put on 7 or 8 pounds in the off season. Okay, that may have been written. I think you know that because you're the first one who said, look at 83, he's gotten bigger and thicker. But the interesting thing about Jalen, who might be the fastest guy on the team, if we line them all up and sprint 100, Jalen's like, make me favored. Well, that was without Kanewanwu in the room, who would be like, make me favored. And then somewhere for another team across the Great Divide, Dan Chisena would like to zoom in and say, hey guys, if I'm back, make me favored. But the interesting thing with Naylor, and he said something that somebody told me from the offense, so one of the coaches, he put on the weight and bounces off guys better than he used to. And hopefully this helped him avoid some injuries too. But he didn't lose any speed. Yeah. So like there's so much that goes into an off season of gaining 7 or 8 pounds and making sure you don't lose your high class speed. And that's what he's done.
And it's been great to see. I mean, every year, your body just naturally picks up weight just from maturing more. And I'm sure Jalen Naylor knew that, and the fact that he's able to balance that out with gaining the right amount of weight but still keeping his speed down, that's only going to make for future success for not only him but this entire Minnesota Vikings receiver room. And I'm excited. He does so many small good things that it makes the ultimate person the person that we're seeing right now. Like there's nothing spectacular about his game, but every year he's getting better at the small things. And I feel like that's why we're starting to say like, hey, like who is this guy Speedy Naylor that people are talking about that Keenan McCardell was high on 2 years ago when he was first drafted. So I'm rooting for the guy. I've had some opportunities to talk to him on an extended amount of period. And if you really get to know the person, he is a very, very good human being. And I'm rooting for him.
Keenan McCardell is fantastic. I mean, it's the way he's able to relate to the younger generation who they know the name, and then maybe they spend some time and go to like profootballreference.com or they Google his name to see that, the wide receivers coach here, that he had 2 receptions in a Super Bowl and they both were touchdowns and somehow didn't win the MVP, which is the weirdest thing in the world. Yeah. But nevertheless, just seeing Keenan at practice and how he works with these guys. But on the Jayshon Jones touchdown, it's who knows what's next for Jayshon Jones. I would predict practice squad for the Minnesota Vikings, which is a wonderful opportunity. You're in the covenant. You're getting paid a nice salary to improve yourself and help others get better at practice via the scout team and stuff like that. And Jayshon Jones, undrafted from Maryland, correct? Yeah, I believe he's from Maryland. It's when he got loose, when he beat his man, because the Browns just played a lot of man coverage in that game and double moves were all over the place and things like that. And the Vikings took advantage of them. Just to watch McCardell sprint down the sideline, joyous like he's a coach, but joyous like a surrogate father. Yep. At that stage of a preseason game where none of the ones are playing. I just love that, how, there's a large portion of people watching or listening to the game, and they'll be like, okay, well, it's not fantasy football, second preseason game. I don't know the names of 90% of the guys, and that's fine too. That is the complete opposite of those in the covenant who, the players who are working hard to get that 100K or whatever it is on the practice squad, to some of the veterans to establish their lot in life with the active roster. Yeah. And it's a grind. It is just, it's a practice, film, walk through, film, practice, film, look back at it, get better, meeting rooms. It's a grind for these guys. And the little things just really set them off positively, even if it's a Jayshon Jones scoring a touchdown. Yep. Keenan McCardell just loves these guys, and he's really good with them.
I remember that play, that Jayshon Jones, that 71-yard touchdown pass, and I know the play that you're talking about, Keenan McCardell. There's a clip of him running down the sideline full speed, and he was
that Jones?
Yeah, that was Jones.
Okay,
but Keenan McCardell, he tapped Kevin O'Connell in the hip. You could just see Kevin O'Connell just like smile, like I don't know, whatever he was thinking about. He just looked at Keenan McCardell in his eyes and was like, "This is what football is about." Yeah. So Kevin O'Connell started smiling. The entire receiver room ran to the end zone. And to your point of it just being a grind, like these guys I know we said Cleveland last week was a long week. I'm sure those guys in that receiver room, they have no idea what day of the week it is right now.
Right.
Because that's how far in they're into this grind. And when you're, not the number one guy in that room, and you see your receivers coach celebrating with you the same way he would celebrate with Justin Jefferson, that means a lot. That means a lot, and everyone else in that room feels that energy too. So kudos to Keenan McCardell, just one of the greatest, not greatest players, but one of the greatest people you ever
time.
meet.
Now, Harrison Smith was nice enough to join the broadcast for the totality of quarter number 3, mic'd up on the sideline. And there was a cool moment during that, where Kevin O'Connell, he noticed, he knew Harrison Smith was mic'd up. Kevin O'Connell was going to be mic'd up for the entire third quarter of the Philadelphia Eagles game. And by the way, each and every Tuesday during the regular season, including the Tuesday up to the Giants game, so that would be 2 weeks from tomorrow, 9 to noon, will be at the TCO radio studios doing 9 to noon here. And Kevin O'Connell is going to join us each and every Tuesday for, an elongated segment, 20, 25, 30 minutes on a Tuesday at 11 o'clock. So make sure you make that appointment listening. But O'Connell looked at Harrison Smith and said, and we heard it on the mic, and it caused some laughs in the third quarter on the simulcast. "You've changed." And then Harrison laughs and looks at the coach and says, "Yeah, I've sold out." And then I'm like, well, at least you're getting paid a lot of money for this. And it was just a joyous moment right there where it could be really, really loose. And, the conversation with Harrison in the quarter went so quickly that there was one thing that I wanted to bring up to him that I didn't get time to bring up. And you being a former Division I receiver who knows Harrison and listens to Bursich. And then I brought this up to Harrison after the game, and I'm really upset that I didn't get this into the mix, is a hitman. The guy to my right, Pete Bursich, always says defensive backs are defensive backs because they were receivers who couldn't catch. And I said that to Harrison Smith after the game, and he said, "F that." He went over 4 reasons why it was wrong. And I'm like, damn, that got left on the cutting room floor, man.
Yeah, it would have been great, because I believe the last question that Pete asked was, would you much rather get a sack fumble or interception or picks, like something along those lines? And he said interception. So I feel like that would have just transitioned to your question even better.
Yeah.
I'm glad Harrison answered it off air, and just look at all the interceptions that Harrison Smith has had in the league.
Their
sure
DBs
he would say F that too,
because they wanted to be receivers, but they couldn't catch. All right, another segment with Gabe around the corner, then the analyst Pete Bursich at about 10 o'clock, and I'm Paul Allen from the TCO studios. Max Fuller is producing from the 651 Carpets Plus studios at FM 100.3 KFAN. A pleasant Monday morning to everybody. Don't leave. We'll be right back.
Find our Mall of America street team all summer long out at our station events, and come find us and ask us about our Mall of America mystery cards where everyone is a winner. See where we'll be next at KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
It's the Green Light Podcast. The Green Light Podcast with Chris Long, former defensive end in the National Football League, 2-time Super Bowl champion. Bo Allen, Minnetonka High School, Wisconsin Badger. He also won a Super Bowl with the Philadelphia Eagles. In super special fashion, they both housed the Super Bowl where the Vikings were in the NFC title game at Philly, and then the Philly special came to U.S. Bank Stadium, and the Eagles won the Super Bowl, and Chris Long and Bo Allen both were on that team, and they are doing their Green Light Podcast from the TCO studios today. I think they start recording shortly after noon, which means they will stop by 9 to noon at about 11:40. And the reason I reintroduced that is because I messed up the podcast name earlier. It's the Green Light Podcast. You can learn more about it via YouTube, is where I watched part of an interview recently with Jonathan Grenard and also with Kevin O'Connell. And Chris is very good at this. I mean, Chris is full-time podcaster guy now, and I wasn't aware of that, but he's really, really good at this. And Bo Allen, I'm familiar with him from his work not only in the NFL, but he played at Minnetonka High School, class of 2010, and they will be here at about 11:40. Nordo has arrived off, sadly, and initials L, but at least you got a couple there. And
yeah.
Tom Pelissero.com, Tom, NFL Network's finest man. I mean, he went secretariat on that whole thing. He was sharp today, and good morning.
Good morning. There was, I don't know if it was a vengeance angle because I mopped the floor with him a year ago. But if I'm going to lose to somebody, Lieber, big dumb jock, Lil B, thanks for playing. Amy Hawker, welcome to the bit, but very new to it. If I'm going to get smoked by somebody, it's good to beat Pelissero, but he was brilliant this morning. So it's a fun tournament that Corey's put together.
Let's unfurl some Vikes bites provided by
the good people at Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef. You can go to thousandhillslifetimegrazed.com. It's a local company, Clearwater, Minnesota. And Matt and everybody do terrific work. And they support Dinkytown athletes. They keep kids local. Actually, if you're wearing maroon and gold playing for the football team, their food is on their table. So go to Thousand Hills Lifetime Graze. You can go to local Coburns, local co-ops. And let's start here with some guys. Speaking of grazing, how about this O-line? So Saturday, I'm doing Fan Line with Ron Johnson. And through 2 games, I know there's one more to go, but I like playing the numbers game when you drill things down to 53. And I don't know where your guys' heads are at on this. We kept 9 offensive linemen into the season, and that included Ezra Cleveland. We know that Ezra goes bye-bye, and enter Dalton Reisner. So this time around, just kind of playing that game on the airwaves on Saturday, I'm looking at Darisaw, Brandell, Bradbury, Ingram, O'Neal. That's your 5. And then what? So I like the way that Rouse has played. Like, I'd have to keep him probably as part of any group. Jurgens, maybe, I think the team loves him for sure. I'm not going to pretend to analyze how good he's been at center recently, but that sounds like maybe a future focal point for him.
Yeah.
I think Reisner's in the mix. That gets you to 8. So then it's Dan Feeney or Mr. Quesenberry. And I don't know where I'm at on that. Where are you guys at?
Quesenberry's a cinch. The way he jumped in last year in some moments where he had to start in a moment's notice, and the fact that he has NFL experience, I would deem him a cinch. Dalton needs to practice. Dalton needs to start playing. And I do believe it is fair to read into Ed Ingram and the fact that in the Raiders game, when the first offensive line, the first Minnesota Moving Company came out, Ingram stayed. And then when all the 2s played at Cleveland, Ingram started. Okay, now Ed Ingram's going to be on the team. I mean, ain't nobody cutting Ed Ingram. But nevertheless, they are looking to get something out of him that just more experience, more reps. I don't know what it is. He's had a lot of reps and a lot of experience. But it's interesting you went down that road because a little later, I might go through the offense. I just put together the numbers that I'm envisioning right now for the offense, and it gets me to a 25. Because when you have an offensive head coach, do you happen to, top of the head, know offense, defense last year, which one got the 26? Was it 25, 25?
I'm going to know in 20 seconds. Yeah. I thought it was 25, but I'll correct myself.
That cut day, I believe it was 25, 25.
Into actives, it went 25, 25, and 3 specialists get you 53. All right, well, I'm at a 25. I'm not married to this, but, I'm not saying I nailed it because it's like we can get into Robert Tonyan later. He needs to practice too. Hawkinson's still recovering from injury, but from an offensive line standpoint, the 9 that I laid out would be Darisaw, Brandell, Bradbury, Ingram, O'Neal, Rouse, Jurgens, Quesenberry, and Reisner. And that's kind of where I'm looking at it right now for the 9. What do you think of that?
That's I don't disagree with you on that. I'm not going to sit here and talk about who's going to get cut, but I'm just thinking about Blake Brandell having that tackle experience. I know he's the starting left guard, but I wonder how much that factors into that final decision, having someone who has flexibility to play every position on the O-line sans center. So I'm interested that how big and how high that this front office is on Michael Jurgens.
Yep.
That does raise a lot of questions for other guys when you start to think about, well, if he's on the team, who's not?
When I watch back a fair amount of the Vikings Browns, I don't watch the whole thing, but Jurgens, this is going to happen. Jurgens had some rough moments where he had some really good moments in the run game, in the Raiders game, But then on Reichard's blocked field goal in the Vegas game, I mean, it can be argued that it was the rookie's fault, that either didn't go the right place or whatever happened. But again, that's going to happen, and that's why you play extended reps in the preseason. But Rouse and Juergens drafted and Quessenberry, I would deem them absolute cinches. So then if you're going to keep 9, you're now splitting hairs between people who are hurt or what you want to do with the practice squad and stuff like that. But the moving company seems to be relatively set.
It does, and they were 25 and 25 as of week 1, and then it changed from there. Now, Lewis Cine, I know you guys talked a bit about him in the first segment, but the reason that he captivates me is not just he got a ton of reps and he made a lot of plays on Saturday.
Yeah.
I actually think his utility and his value to this team at this stage is going to be what he does on special teams. And that leads me down the road of Najee Thompson, who's on the PUP list and not able to commit to these opportunities. I'm excited for the next Matt Daniels press conference so that somebody can tell me, is there a special team stud? Is there a guy out there right now like a Najee Thompson who can't play corner, but he makes himself valuable by being a special teams guy? Has anybody popped to you over the first 2 games?
Well, what popped to me into the Cleveland game and then during the Cleveland game is, and I still haven't gotten an answer on this. I haven't even asked, to be quite, and I probably won't. But like, there were 2 illegal formations on 98 Bo Richter.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
Now, without getting too deep in the weeds here, they do studies, okay, on how this worked in the XFL, which spots were doing what and why at a high level of probability. So, like in the Raiders game, the spot that Bo Richter manned was Josh Metellus' spot. Now, Josh is a special team stud, and he can be, and I fully believe he'll play on kick coverage in that key spot. Well, they wanted to put Richter into that spot to see what he would do with it. I don't understand the illegal formations. I saw Richter chatting with Cleet Blakeman a fair amount, while we were at break, just trying to figure out exactly what's happening with this thing. So I think that played into it, why those flags kept coming in. With Cine and special teams, it's not going to be Gunner. And I don't know if and or when Najee Thompson will return from whatever's going on. But, the Gunners seem to be, Kene Wanwu will be one, I believe. I think Jalen Naylor is somebody that they like outside, specifically with that size. Jay Ward also has some natural gunner to him. Yep. So with Lewis Cine's lot in life, I just don't exactly know where the whole thing fits.
Yeah, and to your point of a guy that's kind of stuck out, PA just hit it right on the head. Jay Ward, a guy that can play 4 phases to special teams: kickoff return, punt return, and just a guy that has position flexibility. And if he continues to trend upward and have that flexibility, both playing safety and DB, having that extra special teams experience kind of cements his spot onto this 53-man roster. We'll see, though.
Vikes Bites.
Vikes Bites provided by
Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed grass-fed beef.
Thanks for the help, my man. I appreciate you. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Gabe Henderson, Vikings Entertainment Network and Vikings.com. Gabe A. Henderson via Twitter. The analyst, in-booth analyst for the Vikings Radio Network, Pete Bursich, will be joining the radio show about 20 minutes from now. When we return, we will do some deep diving on new Minnesota Vikings corner Stephon Gilmore. That's next from the TCO Studios. It's Paul Allen at FM 100.3 KFAN.
Come join us at the 2024 Minnesota State Fair live from Carousel Park, presented by Mesh, Besher, and Spence. We'll be broadcasting live through Labor Day. Come buy your favorite fan merch and learn about your shot to be the Mesh, Besher, and Spence Rube of the Day and win a prize pack. Get the full details now at KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
9:50 on a Monday. It's your favorite radio station, FM 100.3, KFAN, your state fair leader. 9 to noon per usual, cracks open the fan at the fair each and every year. And we will do so on Thursday at 9 a.m. from Carousel Park. Then we will be feasting on a Friday, then a week of state fair activity after that. Then Labor Day, then boom. The Minnesota Vikings take on the New York Giants at MetLife Stadium to begin festivities for the 2024 season, and they will do so with newly signed cornerback Stephon Gilmore. And with Gilmore in the mix, and as Kevin Seifert with ESPN tweeted, it's another indicator the 2024 Minnesota Vikings ain't trying to rebuild. That there's not a rebuild. If anything, there's a reload. You can frame it up however you want. But nevertheless, the cornerback, Stephon Gilmore, will be 34 years of age a month from today. So an early happy 34th birthday to Stephon Gilmore. And he now has played for 5 different teams the last 5 years. And during his now 13-year career has been an All-Pro 2 times. So as I mentioned with Gabe Henderson, Vikings Entertainment Network, kind of right out of the gate, Stephon Gilmore is at a stage of his career where it definitely is fair to say, like when Patrick Peterson was here, that Gilmore is closer to the end than he is the beginning. But what are you getting from somebody who's going to be 34 years of age 1 month from today? He absolutely he's a mercenary in corner covenants. And you know, I got respect for people who get a lot of offers from teams that, you know, the Minnesota Vikings were not the only team in on Stephon Gilmore. But Gilmore stood his ground, and he waited. And players frequently and agents are not calm enough to do this. Now, Gilmore has played in the National Football League for 12 years. So ain't nobody here to get into somebody else's bottom line. But, you know, I think it's fair to take the leap that he can afford to be calm and afford to wait for not only the right offer, but the right team close to the right offer. And the reports are that he gets a 1-year, $10 million deal to be on his 5th team in the last 5 years. So he is what's known as a hired gun. Now, with Gilmore, I haven't followed him closely enough to know what's good or bad with his game, like, for instance, last year with the Dallas Cowboys. But I think here's an interesting way to look at it. And I touched on it a little bit with Gabe at Gabe Henderson. And now this is all predicated on the fact that Brian Flores plays guys in position on which they are not listed on the depth chart. So players like Cam Bynum, Joshua Metellus, Theo Jackson, Jay Ward, and maybe even the Hitman at times have and will don positions that are antithetical to the position on the depth chart or the way most teams play defense. Now, that said, last year, the Minnesota Vikings came into the season with Caleb Evans, Byron Murphy Jr., and then Mekhi Blackman having played a combined 64 games. In the first game against the Buccaneers last year, Caleb Evans and Byron Murphy Jr. played by far a majority of the defensive snaps at corner. It's also fair to note that Brian Flores executes defense using 3 safeties a lot and 4 safeties at times, and it's hard to pigeonhole Metellus and maybe Jay Ward and or Cam Bynum, whether they're playing linebacker, free safety, strong safety, or a form of corner. It's the 3-4 with floaters. It's the hybrid. Now, with Gilmore now in the mix, and Stephon Gilmore is not here and is not being paid $7 million guaranteed to not start and play a bunch. He Murphy Jr., and say Fabian Moreau, who runs with the ones, those 3 into the Giants game, they have a combined 341 games of regular season experience. Add free agent Shaq Griffin to the mix, and even though he's been out for a bit, you can add another 89 games to that mix. So the point here is the cornerback room now all of a sudden is full of experience with those who know how to play man-to-man defense and are confident with it. And a player in Gilmore, just 5 years removed from being the National Football League Defensive Player of the Year. And he won a Super Bowl with the Patriots and with Brian Flores. Griffin got a deal that's about half as big as Gilmore's. But I think this is a fair question to ask. And somebody posed this to me over the weekend, yesterday actually, is this an absolute with Gilmore? Is this an absolute move of desperation because you question what you have, and some of it due to circumstance? We mentioned it earlier with Kyrie Jackson and Mekhi Blackman, and then the current situation with Shaq Griffin. If you consider the Vikings cornerback room dire before the signing of Gilmore, then this would qualify as a desperate time, which for some leads to a desperate measure. But you take the top four: Gilmore, Murphy Jr., Griffin, and Moreau. That's more than 400 games of experience. And for some like Patrick Peterson, when he was here a couple of years ago, some who hopefully know how to play the game despite the 4-3 no longer being the 4-3-40. You know, we saw that with Peterson. Peterson was a 4-2, 4-3 guy out of LSU, whooped ass on punt returns and was an all-pro corner. He was unbelievable. And Gilmore had a lot of that to him early-ish, really up to 2019 in his career. But the 4-3s, the 4-4s, and the bodies and the speed, those will diminish with the reps in the games over elongated careers. And all four that I mentioned are veterans, with Byron Murphy Jr. having not played as long as the other three. So the assumption with Gilmore also is that he's physically conditioned despite not being with a team for months, so that some like injury-related L is not on the horizon due to trying to get the soon-to-be 34-year-old body right in time for 3 weeks from yesterday and the regular season opener. Now, the Minnesota Vikings like their pass rush a lot. They behind the scenes with Grenard and Dallas Turner and Patrick Jones Jr., Gabriel Murphy, if he gets himself going, Bo Richter has opened some eyes. They like their pass rush, at least from the edge, a lot. They like their bolstered run defense a lot. They may have a top 3 safety room in the game. And when I say room, I'm going 5 deep with this room. And it may be top 3 in the entire National Football League. And the identity of the Minnesota Vikings is that of offense. Why is that? The head coach is an offensive-minded play calling head coach. And you have Justin Jefferson, and you have Aaron Jones, and you have Christian Darrisaw, and we can go on. So this is a move I'm guessing they feel they had to make to take what they believe is good and make it better. Gilmore and Griffin, you know, they're hired guns, and Stephon Gilmore got, reportedly a 1-year, $10 million deal. That's the same deal Sam Darnold got, and Sam Darnold's a 27-year-old quarterback who at one time in his career was quite ballyhooed, like Griffin and like Gilmore. So 1 and 10 for a mercenary corner, that in my estimation is a desperate measure, because you're recognizing you had a desperate time. And certainly not speaking for the team, but 1 and 10, I mean, that's grandiose. So let's hope Stephon Gilmore helps. Let's hope all the savvy Flores has in his secondary makes a difference and helps the team win the division. It all starts for real in 3 weeks, and that's when all bets will be settled. We'll be right back.